There are more published studies on kava. It's one of the most well-researched natural compounds in the entire ethnobotanical literature outside of cannabis, ginseng, and reishi mushroom. There's a lot of literature on it, even though it's still fairly well unknown. But all these things that I just described, the mechanisms, everything that we know about kava actually really almost fully supports it, because it has this high affinity for these GABA-A receptors in the brain, which are the main receptors, the biochemical system that creates and builds the parasympathetic response. It's the brakes of the nervous system that allows us to shut down into that surrender that allows that intelligence to come in. That's where you heal, right? What it does, though, instead of just pushing it down like benzos or alcohol would, because benzos and alcohol hit those receptors too, but I always talk about drugs, synthetic drugs like this, because they're these individual molecules that have usually been ripped off by nature or synthesized totally or are a byproduct of metabolism or something like alcohol is, that's just really a toxic product that's made from fermentation, etc. It doesn't have that intelligence in it. It's empty calories and it's kind of an empty substance. Substances like that, drugs and alcohol, they work because they don't have the intelligence to be biologically compatible. They borrow from tomorrow to pay for today. So the experience of that, what that means is that you take it, you get that effect, right? A tangible effect. There's no question. Drugs give you a tangible effect. Alcohol gives you a tangible effect. And they say, well, it works. Well, it's like, well, define works. Because if you feel twice as bad the next day, or 20% less productive from a pseudo hangover or a full-blown hangover, and if you set up the need for the next cigarette or the next drink or the next pill is created and perpetuated by the last one, because it's not creating any more of that chemistry that satiates your mind and that lifts you up and elevates and expands your emotional framework and builds it and builds you into this hypersensory being that we can be. It's not stepping into anything that's cumulative. It's not building. You're not dictating your emotional state. You're chasing something that's acting as what I call like a biochemical credit card, right? I don't have currency today because I've depleted myself. I have the wrong mentality. I'm disconnected from natural living. I've got toxins in my life. All these things that are creating chaos and disease and are suppressing and giving me no currency to feel good, that feel-good chemistry that comes from a sense of purpose, that comes from all the physical stuff we talked about. What you do is you get a credit card and you borrow from tomorrow's stores and you just use a non-intelligent molecule that just binds to a receptor and dumps your stores of something so you can feel it now. Problem is you're in debt. So then you do that enough times and then you take the substance away and you go into withdrawal because now you've just dipped into your regular stores that are just keeping you feeling even regular, not great. That is really the difference between an intelligent medicine like a kava. It binds to the GABA receptors, dopamine receptors, all these main neurotransmission systems, serotonergic system, and then the cholinergic system too. But primarily with the GABA system, what it's doing is it's upregulating the system. So we see an increase in GABA receptor density. We see it's activating the receptors so you get the acute effect, but it's actually communicating with the full intelligence. It's syncing with that intelligence and bringing the system back to a state of balance or homeostasis. It's like a reset, which is what it did for me. So like my experience with it, like with the benzos, I was taking it and it wasn't like I wasn't having seizures and then I stopped taking the kava and then the seizures would come back. They did at first, but after taking kava for a while, even when I took the kava away, my reactions would still be there, but be less and be less and be less. And all of a sudden they just weren't there anymore. And it's like, wow. And it's like, that's what's happening, is that it's actually feeding the system. It's building mental health and restoring the chemistry and like investing capital into the system instead of borrowing it on credit. That's why I can put so many eggs in this basket of kava, because it really is a phenomenal substance in the sense of like, it has the best of the adaptogens from traditional Chinese medicine, Tibetan medicine, from Ayurveda, all the stuff that's sort of like your daily nutritive adaptogenic compounds in medicine. And I've used the heavy-hitting psychedelics, the DMT containing fly across the universe. I've used those. And then everything in between. And kava has like the greatest like therapeutic effect to drawback ratio. I always say, you've heard me say that before, because it gives you this amazing like acute effect that's tangible, that starts to work right away. And for some people more than others that can really feel it and get up to those levels on all different levels without hardly any drawbacks, right? It's so compatible with human biology and it interrupts, to your point earlier, how you talked about it, of course, not being addictive and it doesn't call to you. It's funny because when people ask me, I get this question a lot, is kava a drug, right? Well, it's psychoactive. I feel this effect. I switch out alcohol for it. Is it a drug? Is there, And actually, from everything we know about its chemistry, its pharmacological makeup, its intelligence, its structure, everything, I would actually classify it as not only not a drug, but as an anti-drug. And the reason is because from the credit card analogy, it does the exact opposite. A drug gives you this short term, it plugs into a receptor, stimulates a series of catalytic processes, the dumping of chemicals, and you get this effect that basically just uses up or releases chemistry in your brain to some degree, to varying degrees. But Kava doing the complete opposite, it's a tool and an off-ramp from drug use because it interrupts and satiates the dopamine pathways, the GABAergic pathways, but specifically the dopamine pathways that are, we're connected to addiction, repetitive use. It satiates those pathways without creating the addiction, depletion, negative feedback loop, creating the need for another drink of Kava or another cigarette. So it's not like that you start to use Kava and you just have less and less desire. You don't have to have more Kava, but it's great whenever you want it. That is true. It's a beautiful thing. But it also satiates the desire for other dopaminergic stimulating substances across the board. So we use Kava for interrupting the addictive process, even to freaking things as like scrolling, because it does help in that. So, the sugar addiction, people use it. It suppresses appetite. It stimulates dopamine in the brain without having to pump glucose in there, because glucose is another credit card type of thing, all right? So it's just a beautiful thing that it is an off-ramp from habituation to dopamine-stimulating, pleasure-inducing substances. In other words, it is like the ultimate pro-freedom, intelligent food, because it's a food that actually helps you. It creates the opportunity for you to start harbinging freedom in your life because, again, every single one of these credit cards that we're using is a type of enslavement in reducing our spectrum of opportunities in our life because we become enslaved to this process that's depleting us and taking from us. And any medicine that can come in and help to open that up creates the ability to, now we're more free to do all of these other things and to just like step into our higher capacity as a human.
I just had my 29% birthday and I served True Kava at my party. And it's kind of cool because alcohol makes you more relaxed, but it also makes you a little bit dumb. You're not going to get that from True Kava, but you do feel more conversational, more relaxed. What's it doing to neurotransmitters?
Kava binds to a specific set of receptors called the GABA-A receptors in the brain. And GABA, kind of think of it like the primary brakes of your nervous system, right? It's the thing that anytime you take something that affects GABA, it's going to make you feel calm, it's going to make you feel grounded, it's going to make you feel comfortable and safe. It really opposes the sympathetic nervous system.
Okay.
So the sympathetic, like fight or flight, like brings you into rest and digest. That's its main mechanism. But it's really interesting because it doesn't have just one linear mechanism like a pharmaceutical would, like say a benzodiazepine, like Xanax, that only hits those receptors. So it just brings you down, down, down. Kava also laterally hits on 4 of the major other key neurotransmission systems, but not quite as powerfully as the GABA system, but it also has effects on dopamine, for example.
Okay.
So it affects dopamine without depleting it and setting up the need to further stimulate it more and creating that kind of addiction, dependency, withdrawal type cycle that you see.
Okay, so you're not feeling tired, at least for me. Back when I drank regularly when I was in my early 20s, I would go out and I'd have a few drinks and I'd get really tired. And this is probably because I wasn't very healthy. But I would just say, I'll just drink 3 shots of espresso and then I'll have 3 drinks and then I feel pretty good. So I wanted the upper and the alcohol effect. I was doing that because I would get so tired. I don't get tired when I drink True Kava. Why does Kava not make you tired the way alcohol can?
Because it's the way that it affects the receptors. It's very interesting because there's a lot of great literature on this and the mechanisms are actually pretty well understood. So it doesn't just plug into the GABA-A receptor, for example, and just stimulate the dumping of the available stores of GABA, and you just get this really, really big dump. It has more of a modulatory effect on the GABA system and the dopamine system and the serotonin system and the cholinergic system. So what it does is it's upregulating these things instead of downregulating them, which is why it's not addictive. In fact, it's anti-addictive because of that, because it helps to replete them. It naturally gives you this sort of calm, centered, but yet lifted state of mind and state of consciousness. So it's really that sort of calm, centered focus. So you're not sedated, you're not wired up, you're just clear and calm and you're ready to go. It's the perfect state to get into a reflective, a creative, more an empathetic state of mind, which is why it's such a good connecting tool.
If you like this information, thank you so much for supporting us in the True Kava movement. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thanks, guys.